50,000 pieces went into this build. It measures 1.2 meters wide by 2.4 meters deep. It is my interpretation of the Death Star 1 from Rogue One and A New Hope, and the Death Star 2 from Return of the Jedi. Also with my interpretation, I've put in little scenes from other movies. 50,000 pieces, as I mentioned. I'd say about 49,000 of those were grey, light bluish grey or dark bluish grey. As we get a good view here of Rogue One. Okay, Death Star plans being handed over. They of course went through to Princess Leia, who handed them over. Stormtroopers there getting a good view of Vader interrogating Benny. We've got super laser action. We've got some shootouts. We've got can't have a Star Wars scene without a Stormtrooper knocking his head on the door as he walks through. Here's Trash Compactor with real working walls. Little Dianoga in there too. There's Luke. There's Han. There's Kenobi fooling some Stormtroopers as he deactivates a tractor beam. Worth stopping here for a quick sec. See this and this? These are custom stickers. I got them printed up by a local printing company. Also on the door frames in here, you can see, just makes the whole thing pop a little more. Here's Death Star Canteen. Don't know what I'm talking about. Search up Eddie Izzard's very famous skit. More Death Star action. Here's the chasm. Have a swing through there. Okay, that's obviously some parts taken from the Death Star Escape set released last year. Vader and Kenobi. Blast doors. Luke in the hangar taking his vengeance after seeing his mentor bite the dust. Now through here is the real star attraction. Here I've got the trench run, and there's an X-Wing being chased by Darth Vader, and this trench run, worth noting, no bricks, all plating, 1 by X plates and 2 by X plates there. Here is the hangar. Alright. After all this, we've got some more greebling through here. Some more piping. We've got Darth Vader and the Emperor. And we've got the that scene in the Return of the Jedi when everyone walks in. Okay, a few more red guards, a few more custom stickers. Here is my custom built throne room. I might take a better look at this on a later day. Okay, and this was the result of many hours staring at screenshots and diagrams of the throne room, trying to get it right. Alright, we've got Luke, and we've got the Emperor, we've got Vader, we've got Vader's hand. Through the rest of the Death Star, got to the scene where, focus please, where Vader and Luke have a very touching father-son moment. Very Cat Stevens, Cats in the Cradle there, isn't it? And of course, the ending of Return of the Jedi. One last thing I want to show you, my pride and joy, my favourite part of this whole entire build. Okay. You've probably seen it before as in the background. I'm going to focus on it here. This is in fact a UCS Super Star Destroyer build. Okay, a lot of time and effort went to sourcing those parts, and I smashed it right into the surface, which was a real joy when it came together quite nicely. Across the back here, some custom work just to get that bottom hull looking right, because the original model is very flat because it's not supposed to be seen from this particular angle too much. So what you have here is an official UCS Super Star Destroyer build, just without the front part here. Now I do have those parts, so I actually do have the UCS model, which I parted in specifically during the build, but just took off the nose part, and you'll see why shortly. Underneath, the bottom is very flat as per the normal model, so I've built a special hull which will attach to that once I insert this big bad boy into the Death Star. So just having a look over the whole shebang for the moment, and you'll see that this little gap right here, well, not little, I mean it's a fairly decent sized gap, is going to house the Superstar Destroyer there. So I'll show you how that goes in. Right, so here's a quick video detailing the process behind the X-Wing and the TIE Fighter and the Chase Cam and the 9-volt track system. It all started in September 2018 when I was at my very first LEGO show here in Palmerston North. And the Star Wars guys were having a chat, the Railway guys were having a chat, I decided to join in. Some ideas were thrown around and I asked about, well, why don't you have a camera running through your model? And they all looked at me like I was crazy. Both sides said it couldn't be done, which was my challenge to say, well, actually it can be done, and this is the result. Through a series of logical leaps, the idea was I saw a lot of people taking a lot of photos at these displays, at these shows,
perhaps too many to actually keep, because you know how it is. You get thousands of photos on your phone, you look at them once, you delete them, that's it. So in order to stand out from the crowd and do something special, I decided to try and up the interactivity. But of course, interactivity is all well and good, but the taboo is look but don't touch when it comes to Lego. So I wanted a way that was people were able to engage with the model without necessarily touching it. And this seemed to be the perfect thing. And as a result, apart from people, taking selfies with stuff behind them, once I saw that happening, I thought, well, what about a selfie stick? So very uncoolly, I went and bought a selfie stick for, what was it, $10, $15, can't remember. Threw the selfie stick away, kept the mount. And this square bit on the bottom is from a tripod that I had lying around, and this is from the selfie stick. So once I put those together, it was simple enough to put them together on this 8x8 plate in here. He says try and do it one-handed. There we go. Now, once that's mounted on a 9-volt track motor, okay, you get something happening here. Now I'm just going to put the phone in. There we go. And now you can see, just how smooth this is and how great this footage is going to look when you replay it. So that was the first step, and once I realized this was able to run around the track, I then said, well, you need something to chase. And of course, being a Star Wars fan, I realized that this was an iconic view, right behind the X-Wing down the trench in A New Hope. And I built this little Midi scale X-Wing, which I am exceptionally proud of. This is one of the few things that will remain once I have disassembled everything. Very happy with this. No specific designation, but we can call it Red 5 or Wedge or whatever, whoever you need to be. You can even call it yourself if you want. And once I put this one on a 9-volt as well, a 9-volt motor, there we go. The rest is pretty much set it to go and go. Now, one issue I had was that the two motors were running at different speeds, and I'm not skilled enough to break them open, so that's why I ended up using this little almost a chain connector. So you put that one in there, and you put that one in there, and the faster of the two motors ended up being the front one, and away you go. It's probably not the most ideal, and if I had more skill, I'd be able to work it. I tried mixing it with the power functions and the new Bluetooth one, but even though they work on the track, they didn't necessarily work for me overall, because having to change batteries out all the time, having to constantly monitor and get the speed right and stuff, was just a major pain. So this was the quickest, simplest, easiest way to do it, which turned out to be a good thing, because in my first show, a few months ago, a month and a half ago, I ended up putting about 400 to 450 phones through over the 2 days, which is non-stop. It was incredible. We had 8,500 people through the doors on that show, and my table always had someone from open to finish, or virtually open to finish, trying to put their phone through. It was astounding. So the public engagement has been absolutely phenomenal. Now, one thing that didn't really happen in the public display too much, which I was a bit ashamed about, because, well, not ashamed, but a bit disappointed in, was the fact that this canopy wasn't used so much. I felt that with the range of different phones that were there, this was going to get caught up and be too much of a hassle. But once you put it on, you'll get the idea of what's behind this idea. Now I'm just going to put this one in here like so, readjust there. Now all of a sudden you're sitting behind Luke Skywalker from your very own TIE Fighter. And the reason I've only got the Darth Vader's TIE Fighter as opposed to the proper TIE Fighter is obviously the height, and just getting snagged on all the greebling and stuff on the other side was another concern that I had, so a sacrifice had to be made. But you can see that this gives you a pretty cool view, and of course, because the canopy is mounted to the actual mount, it doesn't move when you move everything else around, which is fantastic. Okay, so I'm just going to pop the... I'll turn this around this way. I'm just going to pull the camera out and show you the whole thing as a length. There we go. So that's the whole deal. And obviously, you can modify this any way you want. I tried an X-wing canopy, but it turned out to be too long, kept getting snagged. And you can remove this very simply. And you can remove this quite simply. And you can pop that on so that you've always got something running. Oops, okay, so he's dropped that. So you've always got something running if you have to step away, so that people are still visually interested in the display. Right, well, that pretty much sums it up. Thank you so much once again for putting this together. I hope it's successful for you. I hope you get a billion views, and I hope that I get a little bit of recognition when I go to the next show, which is going to be in 1 week's time at Christchurch in New Zealand, and then Wellington in New Zealand in September. And after that, I'm dismantling it. I'll keep the throne room, I'll keep the Superstar Destroyer, I'll keep the X-Wing and the TIE Fighter, but the rest of it's going towards my next project. Spoiler, well, not spoiler for you, maybe a little hint or a heads up, it's going to be an interactive map of Westeros. Game of Thrones isn't necessarily cool right now, but I really like the show. But maybe people will forgive it once they see what I've got to put together. So, once again, thanks very much. This has been a real pleasure to build and a real pleasure to shoot better footage for you guys. I'm so happy you've taken this project on board. This is Anthony Ducre, Instagram at DC Bricks and Bits, and YouTube at Anthony Ducre, saying thank you very much.